Good morning. Today is Friday, the 10th day of Sivan. We begin today the chapter 3 in the Shaar Hayichud VeHaemuna, the second part of the Tanya, which is the part that it discusses about the oneness of God. And we started discussing in the last two chapters that it means that Hashem, everything comes from the words of Hashem, the existence of the world. And the question today that we're discussing is reality real or is it an illusion? After what we discussed in the previous chapters, what the Baal Shem Tov says, La'olam Hashem dvorcha nitzav b'shamayim, that the words of Hashem, the words of the 10 utterances are what keeps everything existing. And we understand the way we explained yesterday that the words, that Hashem uses the words, the letters, the Hebrew letters, and the combination, the many different combinations of the Hebrew letters, in order to bring every existence in this world to be existing. And he explained also the roots of the mistakes of the heretics. The heretics, we're talking about not that they deny God's existence at all, but they deny the divine providence. They say, yes, God created the world, but every little detail is he involved? It's too small for him. And the same thing, they deny the miracles. God doesn't get involved in miracles. And Alter Rebbe explained that the root of the problem is that they think in human terms when it comes to creation. They compare God's creation to human creation. That just like when someone creates something, he created it and that's it, is going. The same thing, they compare God's creation. That once God created the world, he can move on. However, he explained yesterday that the big difference is that God creates is not creating something from something else, but he creates something from nothing. So everything in this world does not have its own existence at all. Now in this chapter 3, the Alter Rebbe moves on further to explain even deeper. What else needs to be explained? After all, you already explained that everything in this world comes as a result of God's making it exist. However, he goes in deeper to understand the reality, what we see. Is it real? Or is it not? Or is it an illusion? To use an example, when you have, let's say you have an image of a human being, okay? You look at a human being standing here in the room. And what happens if you put a mirror and you see the image in the mirror? You see the same image. So the image in the mirror, is this a real image? Is this real? Does it have its own existence? So obviously, everybody understands that it doesn't have its own existence. It only exists because the person is standing right there, whether it's an image in a mirror or it's an image in a digital image, and you see the person stands on the other end of the world, and you see the image in this screen. So when you're talking about this image, obviously, as soon as the person is gone, the image is gone. Like they say the story with the king that said to two artists, who told them, paint me a portrait. If you paint me a nice portrait, you get a bag of gold. One artist sat down and started working very hard, and he worked to make a beautiful portrait. And the other artist didn't do anything. Came the day that the king wanted to see both portraits, So the first artist comes and shows the image that he drew. The king was very impressed. He takes a bag of gold and he gives him. The second artist thought he was going to be smart. He says, I have something better. I have something, an exact image of you. And he takes the mirror and he puts it right in front of the king. Perfect image. King is very impressed, says, very smart. He takes the bag of gold and he puts it on the floor and says, go to the mirror, take that bag of gold. Obviously, we're talking about, it seems like an illusion. It's not real. It's only real because it's a reflection of something that is real. So this we understood from yesterday's class. In today's class, Alter Rebbe goes on to go a little deeper to explain that not only is this existing because of the image that is outside, meaning that we exist because God makes us exist, but really Hashem is in us itself, meaning the image that we see is not the real thing. If we would have the eyes to see the real thing, we would see something else. We would see God in the image. I said the Alter Rebbe, before he passed away, he was laying in the bed, he was looking on the beam on the ceiling, and he said, I don't see a beam, I see God. That takes more spiritual eyes to see. So let's see how the Alter Rebbe explains in today's lesson. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'hinei acharei hadvorim ve'emes ha'eleh." Now, following these words of truth, what we explained concerning the nature of the creation, meaning the activating force that must continually be vested in the created beings and create them something from nothing, ex nihilo. So after all, following these words of truth, says Alter Rebbe, Kol maskil al dovo yovin la'ashurei. Every discerning person will understand clearly Eich shekol nivra v'yesh ube'emes nachshav le'ayin. That every creature and being, even though it appears to have an existence of its own, is in reality considered to be absolute naught and nothingness. La'ayin ve'efes mamash. Legabe koyach hapoyel veruach piv shebenifol. In relation to the activating force which creates it and the breath of his mouth which is within it. Amehave oisei tamid umeitzioi me'ayin mamash leyesh. And which is within it and continuously calling it into existence and bringing it from absolute nothing and non-being into being. So this is the real reality. The reason that all things created and activated appear to us as existing, meaning it seems like it's self-existing and they're tangible. The Yeshu Mamashus. Why is it? This is because we do not comprehend, nor do we see with our physical eyes the power of God and the breath of his mouth, which is in the created thing. We don't see it. If, however, the eye were permitted to see, if we would be permitted to see and to comprehend the life force and the spirituality which is in every created being, Ashoifeya boy mimoitza pi Hashem v'ruach piv, which is flowing into it from that which proceeds from the mouth of God and His breath. Lo yoya gashmius anivra v'chumroi umamoshoi nira klal leinenu. And the physicality and materiality and tangibility of the created of the creature would not be seen by our eyes at all. Why? Ki hu batel b'metzius mamesh legabe yachayus v'ruchni shebay. Because it, meaning this physicality, is completely nullified in relation to the life force and the spirituality which is within it. Since without the spirituality within it, it would be naught and absolute nothingness. Exactly as before the 6 days of creation, which was before the 6 days of creation, was absolutely nothingness. And this is, the Alter Rebbe concludes here in today's lesson, that this is the real reality, meaning that Hashem is there and makes it existence. That means it's not just like an image in the mirror, to use the example. In the image in the mirror has also godliness that it makes it exist, so there's nothing else. It says, "Varuchnius hashofeya olav mimoitza pi Hashem v'ruach piv, hu levadoi amoitzioi tamid me'efes v'ayin leyesh u'mehave oisei." The spirituality that flows into it from that which proceeds from the mouth of God and His breath, that alone continuously brings it forth from naught and nullity into being. That itself makes it into existence. And this spirituality gives it existence. Imkein, efes bilode be'emes. And therefore, hence, there is truly nothing besides Him. It says, in any created being apart from the divinity, the only true reality that brings it into existence. So the created being does not constitute a true reality, inasmuch as it is wholly dependent for its existence on the continuous flow of divine life force. Indeed, its existence verily consists of that activating force. In tomorrow's Shir, which is Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe goes on to bring the example of the sun, the light of the sun, and the light of the sun, the way it is in the sun itself. So the life of it is completely nullified within the sun. So just like you can use an example of a light of a candle. Light of a candle has its existence. If you take the candle in a daylight, in the middle of the daylight, you don't see the light of the candle. But still, it has its existence, except you don't see it. And when you're talking about the light of the sun within the sun itself, that is completely nullified in its existence. And this is what Alter Rebbe gives in the tomorrow's Shir to explain further how we are not real existence. Our own existence, the only existence is the fact that we are continually being created by Hashem every single moment. This gives a person perspective to appreciate life. When you realize every moment, you say, wait a second, this second, I did not exist. Hashem just created me, this moment. And if Hashem created me this moment here, that means that He wants me here. There's a mission for me here to do. So this is the end of today's shir. Thank you so much for joining.